Hey everyone, my name is Bex, and my goal is to break down and demystify the world of wine for you. On this episode, I'll be talking about acidity, which is super important in regards to wine. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so let's go. We're gonna get a little nerdy. So when we talk about acidity, it just means the actual amount of acid in a wine. You could also think of it like its pH. All wine contains acid. That's part of what makes wine what it is. All wine that's sold commercially is going to fall on the pH scale between 3 and 4. And while that might not seem like a huge range given the whole scale, when it comes to what's in your glass, it makes a world of difference. For wines that have lower acidity or higher pH, they're going to feel more broad and round and soft in your mouth. The higher the acid, or lower pH, the more of those tart, mouth-watering sensations you'll get. And the longer they last, the higher your acid. So what kinds of acids are we talking about here? The main acid found in grapes, and subsequently wine, is called tartaric acid. Now this is special because grapes are one of the few foods where tartaric is the predominant acid. So much so that archaeologists know that wine production has been around for thousands of years because they found clay pots, otherwise known as amphora, with tartrate crystals still clinging to the sides of them. Have you ever pulled a bottle of wine out of the fridge and seen this happen? Those are tartrates, and they occur naturally in wines with a lot of acid. Let me be clear, there is nothing wrong with this bottle of wine. So next time you see this, don't freak out. Another very important acid found in grapes is called malic acid, which comes from the Latin word malum, which literally means apple. Think about that slightly sour, tart, and crisp feeling you get when you bite into a Granny Smith apple. In fact, malic acid levels are often a prime indicator for growers and winemakers when determining when they're going to pick the grapes. Pick too soon, and the wines often have a sour taste to them. But if you wait too long, the wines will feel flat and be more susceptible to microbial spoilage. There are other acids too, but they're found in much smaller amounts, like citric acid, which all of us are familiar with, and lactic acid. I'll explain that one in just a minute. So where are these acids coming from? Acid develops in the pulp of the grape, which means that it will be present in every wine that you will ever drink. How much acid a wine has and how it feels in your mouth is all dependent on the grape variety, where it was grown, when it was picked, and how it was made. Do you remember earlier when I told you how important malic acid is? Well, it plays a key role in a very important winemaking process that can completely transform the way a wine tastes and feels, and that's known as malolactic fermentation, or MLF for short. The process of malolactic fermentation generally happens after alcoholic fermentation. And what's happening is that malic acid is being converted into lactic acid. Just think about the difference between biting into a Granny Smith apple or eating a spoonful of yogurt. And acidity will also enhance the astringency and the bitterness of tannins, which is part of why you want your red wine to go through malolactic fermentation. With regards to white wine, however, whether or not to go through MLF is completely a stylistic preference. Wines like this Albarino don't go through MLF, favoring instead for crisp citrus and green apple flavors with hints of minerality. This California wine, on the other hand, went full MLF, which is how we get all those butter bomb Chardonnays. And some are more subtle about it than others. And that's part of what malolactic fermentation does in addition to the mouthfeel. It creates those lactic sort of flavors. That's where it's coming from. While these acids by themselves don't have a smell associated with them, they are involved in the chemical reactions that create fragrances, which is why wines have those fresh and fruity aromas that we love so much. pH will also affect a wine's susceptibility to oxidation, which for us means the loss of that bright color and fresh aroma. We see this all the time in other foods that contain acids, like this apple, avocado, and banana. As they are exposed to oxygen, they turn brown. You'll see this browning occur in wines with a lot of age on them, or ones that were oxidized intentionally, like with some sherries or Madeira. If somehow I haven't convinced you yet that acids are important, just wait. There's more. These acids are commonly added to all sorts of food items that you might find in the grocery store, generally as preservatives, but often to make things taste sour, like one of my personal favorites, gummy worms. Now, the best, easiest, and in my opinion, most efficient way to understand the way acid feels in your mouth is take a lemon wedge and take a bite. Immediately my mouth starts watering. It's really sharp on the sides of my tongue. Yep. Still salivating. It's got a lot of acid. By now, you might be wondering, okay, Bex, I get all the science. Now, how am I supposed to pair this with food? So glad you asked. Master sommeliers across the board agree that the level of acid in your wine is the most important factor when trying to pair it with food. Wines that are higher in acid are beautiful pairings for any dish that has a cream or butter-based sauce, oily fish or shellfish, and virtually anything deep fried, because acid is the ultimate contrast to anything rich, salty, greasy, fatty, or even mildly spicy. Think about the way just a little pop of lemon on an oyster just makes it sing. Champagne and fried chicken, anyone? Whew, that one was a doozy. Who knew that one thing could be so important to every bottle of wine that you see on a shelf? And there's more to the story. So be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, throw me a thumbs up, and leave me a comment to let me know what you think. And remember that the best bottle of wine is the one that you share.